We all love staying at luxury hotels and gaming their loyalty programs to get amazing perks like free breakfast and suite upgrades. But the programs aren't perfect, and we have some requests. So today we're going to talk about a realistic wish list for each of the major hotel loyalty programs. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherwin. On today's episode of the Credit Card BS podcast, we'll chat about how these hotel loyalty programs could realistically be improved and how to, what kind of we want to make the loyalty programs more attractive. Beginning with Marriott, which is by far the biggest chain out there in terms of the breadth of their number of properties and the different chains that they have. So, what's one wish you had for Marriott, Sean?
Yeah, I think they need to simplify the program, and they can start by making the breakfast benefit for platinum tier and higher members standardized, or at least significantly more standardized across the brand, across their brands. I mean, currently you literally need like a PhD in bon voyology to understand what kind of breakfast you'll be getting, if any, or what kind of credit you'd be getting based on what hotel brand you're staying, what the moon cycle is, and the mood of the check-in agent. So having some kind of a standardized breakfast benefit of like, look, you're gonna, even if it's just continental, this is what you'll get every brand that has a restaurant or whatever. That would be really really nice. I think having something like that would allow a lot more clarity in the brand, because right now it's very opaque. And I mean, if you're international and you're staying like full service brands or luxury brands, pretty consistently just going to get a full breakfast, right? It's not really an issue there. But if you're traveling within the U.S., it's literally like just playing lottery or roulette if you're not like, if you haven't deeply studied this. So I think that would be one thing I would like.
Yes. I think another thing I would like is to have waived resort or amenity or destination or whatever you call it fees that they love to tack on award nights. I think it is quite ludicrous that when you're redeeming points for a stay, you have to supplement it often with a resort fee that can be like $40 to $50 per night, and it really just makes the stay feel not free. And Hilton and Hyatt have been able to do this for the longest time, and I think it's time for Marriott to keep up with the other programs.
Yeah, I completely agree. A free night should be a free night. I don't think this is anything too controversial. The fact that the hotel is still, harvesting money off of you on your free night does feel a bit scummy. I think another thing, and this gets a little more specific, but currently the Marriott Nightly Upgrade Award system is very weird. You essentially waitlist an upgrade for a suite, which may or may not be confirmed up to 5 days out. Now, it used to be 5 days, and then they changed it to three, and now they just changed it back to five. So up to 5 days out, they'll confirm your upgrade into a suite. But the problem I have with it is, look, I don't mind actually doing this waitlist system. I get why it works. Hotels don't want to pre-block their suites that they could sell for a lot of money. But they do, in theory, want to upgrade elite members. And when you're out, when you're like 5 days out, no one's buying the suites anymore, right? Like pretty much, as a general rule, they're not really gonna, if they have like huge suite occupancy open, no one's gonna go up and buy all the suites. So being able to upgrade at that point is very safe. My problem with this system is it works as a poor hybrid between like the Hyatt Suite Upgrade Awards that are confirmed and just doing like a complimentary upgrade at check-in, because some hotels only list like kind of like either like base level suites or not even suites for this program. And I get it's like a nightly upgrade award, but come on. The point of this is like, look, what I'm supposed to exchange here is I don't know if I'm gonna get upgraded or not. But you better put some gonzo suites on there. Because I want, in theory, I kind of view this as like gambling for my hotel stays. I want that chance to get cleared into some mega suite. That's like, I feel like that they should either do that or make them able to be confirmed for like an upgraded room at booking. Maybe not even a suite. Maybe I can just guarantee myself like an ocean view of like a beach resort or something. But either make it that I can confirm into some upgrade at booking, or make it that, look, fine, it's still going to be the waitlisted system, but hotels are going to have to list some high tier rooms on there, because that's what makes it fun for me. That's the one part of the system that I think in theory is quote unquote better, big quotes, than the Hyatt Suite Upgrade Awards. Is that, okay, look, it's not confirmed, but if the hotel's a low occupancy, or if I just get really lucky, I could at some hotels get upgraded to some mega suites. I think they should expand that more.
I think that's a really good point. Another wish I would have for Marriott is waived parking for, I mean, at platinum level, preferably, but at the very minimum, titanium level. Hyatt does this for their globalists for free parking on free nights, and I think that's an awesome perk that would make Marriott a lot better. I say this mostly because I'm just a bit jaded from using Marriott free night certificates for a stay that was, overpriced in the first place, and having to pay like $40 for a resort fee, and then another $50 for parking, and then despite redeeming the certificate, I'm still out $90 in cash because of these fees. Sean, didn't you have a recent experience where you decided to abandon a booking because of parking? I think it was IHG, but why don't you share some of your
Yes.
thoughts about this concept?
So I had to be in San Francisco for a few nights, and I was going to stay at the Intercontinental San Francisco using an IHG free night certificate. It was 40,000 points, so I didn't have to top up. But I was like, wait a second. And we had a rental car. Okay, long story, but we needed a rental car. And I needed to stay, and it was $35 a night destination fee. And it was something like $80 for the valet parking. And I'm like, wait a second. It's going to be like $110 just to redeem my free night at this hotel. This is absurd. So what I ended up doing instead is using the Cat 1 to 4 Hyatt cert at the Hyatt-centric Fisherman's Wharf. Now, probably not as nice of a hotel, but I had free valet parking, no destination fees, and breakfast was comped because I have Globalist. And it was really just insane. Like, it would have, it is essentially like when you factor, for example, like look at the Hyatt card free night certificate or the annual fee on that card. Okay, it's $95. It's literally cheaper for me to pay the annual fee on the card, get the free night, use the free night, versus to just use the certificate in IHG that I already owned. And it's insane. So yeah, I think especially in these like city hotels where the parking is just literally ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, because they'll often
I think that
only
would
have
be
valet
like,
parking. There's no self parking option, and it's like you either spend $80 on valet parking, or you spend 2 hours trying to find parking in some sketchy lot in another building, and then walking a long distance to get to your hotel. So, yeah, something that should be improved.
yeah.
Um,
I agree. I think another thing, and this is something that actually, like, personally, like, I think about this a lot more than I should, but it is absurd to me that Marriott ambassadors who have 100 elite qualifying nights, and you know what, fine, whatever, 100 elite qualifying nights, amateur hour, right? People do that, but spend $23,000 a year at Marriott's, like 23,000 cash, like there's no way to get around that requirement, zero, no way to game it. That they don't even get free breakfast at like Edition and Ritz-Carlton. That is absolutely ridiculous to me. Like, I understand there's an overinflation of elite members at a lot of places. Look, maybe I'm totally wrong. I can't imagine there are truly that many ambassadors out there that are, going to bankrupt, who are already like reaching this cash requirement, who are just somehow, these Ritz-Carlton and Edition hotels just somehow can't afford to give, these ambassadors breakfast. I think that should be something like, look, fine. You don't want to give breakfast at Ritz-Carlton's to Titanium, which is already stupid. Fine, whatever. At least do it for Ambassador. Like, that's such an easy way to differentiate Ambassador from Titanium, and I can't imagine it would cost that much. They already should be doing it, given the insane requirements to earn Ambassador. So that's kind of my final wish for Marriott. I don't think anything here is too outlandish or unreasonable.
yeah, I agree. I think that's a reasonable ask considering how much money ambassadors are spending at Marriott. But yeah, the breakfast at a Ritz is a drop in the bucket for the chain to be able to provide. Let's talk about Hyatt now. So, Sean, you have an interesting take where you think the threshold to earn Globalist should be increased. Now, 60 nights is already a lot, so why don't you walk us through your reasoning for that?
Yeah, so I'm someone that believes that in any loyalty program, top tier status should be top tier, right? It should be, in the sense, meaningful. And the problem I think we're seeing is a huge influx of globalists that are starting to make the program less valuable. Now, I am one of those globalists. Originally, I got in on Globalist via Status Challenge, but I've since earned my fair share of elite qualifying nights to maintain full level globalist. And I'm someone who is not like this year going to reach that high above the 60 night threshold. I'll probably be at like 64, 65. I would not be opposed if they wanted to increase the requirements during globalist. Now, I'm sure that's going to be very controversial, but I say this because I think top tier status should be top tier. The reason like Hilton Diamond is not that valuable is because everyone has it. I was at the Grand Hyatt Kauai recently, and they were telling me something like 20 plus globalists a day are checking in. Now, that's a large hotel for sure. But for example, that hotel used to give spa access to globalists as like an extra elite perk, which was a very enjoyed perk by me and my family. But now they have since had to cut that benefit because there are just too many globalists, they've said. Which actually I totally understand, right? A spa is supposed to be tranquil. It doesn't work with too many people. So I personally wouldn't have a problem if they increase the threshold. I understand that's controversial, but that's just what I maybe think, because I would like some way to where if I'm checking into a hotel, that it feels a little more meaningful than there's 20 other globalists checking in per day. I don't know. Sherwin, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I would argue that if your concern is about oversaturation of globalists, the problem is less of a 60 versus 70 night threshold, and more about like maybe you want the 20 night challenges, whether through built or corporate challenge, to be more limited.
Yeah.
I think that might actually do more to address the saturation problem than like just raising, like even if you raise 60, 70, if a lot of people are still taking shortcuts to globalists, that's not necessarily going to directly fix the problem, right?
Yeah, you're right. I do think they should.
Or
get
I mean,
rid
I
of
think
all the
another
status
thing
challenges
maybe
and
is
matches,
like,
or make them like one time.
yeah, like maybe one of the more visible things is like, for example, if a club lounge gets overcrowded, if there's too many globalists. I mean, I think globalists having club lounge access is an excellent perk, but perhaps if that's such a concern, maybe they could take the IHG route where you actually have to earn it as a milestone reward.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and I would not be opposed to that, because I think actually right now the problem for a lot of hotels with club lounges is they're kind of like a cost sink, and that they're probably, a lot of these hotels probably aren't making much money at all. If anything, they're probably losing money on operating these lounges. And because what you want is something where the hotel is able to make these lounges like a premium experience.
Yeah.
And that way they're able to make money off them from guests that don't have status, and then status guests get to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think if they make it like the My Hyatt Concierge, for example, where you actually have to spend 60 nights to get it as a milestone reward rather than just being global status, that is pretty reasonable, because considering that I think at the 20 and 30 night levels, you get 2 club lounge access awards, or at least a choice of picking it. And so like globals can still have access to those even if they don't have 60 nights by using those awards. But then like if you really stay those nights, then you get the unlimited access. I think that is like a happy medium that similar to how IHG is doing it in a sense, and can actually incentivize more properties to keep their club lounges open. Because I noticed that after the pandemic, a lot of Hyatt properties just like closed them and never reopened them, because it's probably cheaper for them to give globalist breakfast than to maintain the spread in a club lounge. I don't know, just some thoughts.
No, yeah, I agree. I think what they could do then is then like, and I think they should do this anyways. Actually, I forgot to put this on the list, but that for globalists, they should say, look, you can get free breakfast and club lounge access if you're like a full globalist, because some properties don't have the highest quality of club lounges, and I sometimes I'm like, yeah, I probably would actually rather just have like a full, legitimately good breakfast than this.
Yep. I think another wish list we have is make the middle tier status a bit more meaningful for Hyatt. So we're thinking about like Explorist level, maybe at the 30 night range. I think we would be cool if they raise it a little higher, like 35 or 40 nights, but then actually enforce like the upgrade a little more closely. Like technically by the terms, Explorers are supposed to get the best available non-suite room, and Globalists are supposed to get the best available room, including standard suites. They tend to deliver the benefit pretty well for Globalists, but Explorers is not as clear how well they do that. So I think that could be an improvement.
I agree. I think also I would like for them, and I don't really get why they haven't done this yet. But by the terms, Hyatt Globalists are not eligible for upgrades at Hyatt Place, Hyatt House, and Caption hotels. Now, I get normally the argument for that is like, oh, there's nothing really that great to upgrade into, anyways. I would disagree. So I've been in, when I went to Japan and I stayed at the Hyatt House Shibuya, I stayed at the Hyatt Place Kyoto, and I stayed at the Caption Osaka. None of those hotels upgraded me at all, which is fine. They don't have to by the terms, and they very clearly pointed that out. But there were like nice upgraded rooms available that would have been really nice. Like at the Caption Osaka, the base room was very small, and they had a deluxe room open, which is like almost double the size. Not a suite, like still below a standard suite. So if I was eligible for that, that would have been really nice and made my stay a lot better. So I feel like I don't really understand why they haven't added complimentary upgrades in the terms for these brands. It would be really nice if they did, especially because if you're doing like cheap stays in Asia, the difference between like the base room at a Hyatt House or a Caption hotel and some upgraded room can actually be quite significant in terms of comfort level, just because you're usually scaling up fairly high percentage wise in terms of like the size of the room or the view. So I would love that.
Cool. I think that's a very good point. Um, what about the complimentary suite upgrades? I think you had some thoughts about that for Hyatt and how the balance between using suite upgrade awards has sort of shifted in the sense that it's harder to get complimentary suite upgrades at time of check-in. Why don't you elaborate a bit about that?
Yeah, the problem with Hyatt is that their suite upgrade awards are so good. It almost like hurt. I mean, no, it does hurt the complimentary upgrades. For example, Grand Hyatt Kauai, hotel I've visited many times. You will never, I will basically say hands down, like maybe less than 1% chance ever get an upgrade to a standard suite as a globalist at that hotel. Not because they refuse to give the upgrade, but because that the standard suites are always 100% of the time booked out because people use their suite upgrade awards there. And that's great for those people that are able to use it, right? Confirm a suite up to like a year in advance for up to a week's stay. Wonderful, right? That's an amazing benefit. But the problem is now you have this complimentary benefit upgrade perk that now cannot be applied, nearly as effectively as if if suite upgrades were more limited. Now, I'm not saying to limit the suite upgrade system, but I would like some way. I don't know how to change this, but maybe some way to like waitlist for some kind of a premium suite. I think that would be interesting. Maybe if you use multiple suite upgrades like in conjunction to each other, or if they had some kind of like a waitlisted nightly upgrade award system similar to Marriott, that specifically applied to premium suites. Maybe I only can do a few of those per year, right? Like X number of nights or something. I think that would be cool just to be able to like try out some like premium suites. Nothing, and it would only be like right up until check-in that they would confirm it. So like they're not losing money like they are on the standard suites. I don't know. That's more of a reach ask, but I think something like that could be interesting.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want them to take away how the complimentary suite upgrade works now, which is you can book it as far in advance as you want, as opposed to like for example Marriott or IHG where it only works close in. But I think one possible reason maybe like too many people are using these is because starting last year they allowed confirmable suite upgrades to be giftable to other people, and I think it's still a good change that you're able to gift it because sometimes it is hard for yourself to use it, but another friend or someone could benefit from it. But I think it also runs into abuse problems where people would illicitly sell them, for example, which is against the terms of service. So maybe like limiting the number of confirmable suite upgrades that can be gifted each year by a globalist could be a reasonable middle ground where you're still allowing them to be gifted in some circumstances when people really need it, but also like having some kind of cap so it's not as gameable, and therefore that might sort of rebalance the situation slightly more so that complimentary suite upgrades might be more frequent. Sean, thoughts about that?
No, I think that would be a smart system because I think we are seeing, I'm sure it's not operating at a huge scale publicly, but there are people in marketplaces that literally are just buying and selling these things, which is against the Hyatt terms and all that. And the problem is it's like, you know, and people are selling these things for like remarkably low cost as well, which is kind of insane. Like, some people, like, what would you value a confirmed suite upgrade at, right? Probably like several $100s, right? But people in some of these marketplaces, again, I'm not buying from these, let me be clear. I'm just saying, like, I view the listings. They're selling for like sub $100. And I'm like, what is going on? And it makes you feel like, why am I even earning this status? Because these things are so cheap that people are selling them for. Um, and so, yeah, I think some way to like limit the way that they're gifting them would be smart, because I don't think it should be like, oh, I have 15 suite upgrade awards. Let me just go give them out to everyone that didn't earn status. It creates a problem. Let's move on to Hilton now. Hilton, we're going to have like, I think, lower asks than these other programs, because, the nature in which you earn Hilton status is just the Aspire card. It's really easy. So I'm not going to go say that, oh, they need to have like super mega confirmed, like always, suite upgrades or whatever, because that's just not going to happen. I think what they should do, though, is make it that the language is clear on these upgrades. I don't like, particularly like Hilton and IHG, how inconsistent the upgrades are. There doesn't seem to be much of a standard. So like they should say golds get upgraded X number of categories, even if it's just one category, and diamonds get upgraded to the lowest up to the lowest tier suite available. Right? Just make it clear. I understand there's a lot of elite members, right? Can't upgrade everyone, but you should be upgrading some people. And if it's right at check-in, they're not going to sell it anyways. It's not really a significant harm to the hotel to do that upgrade.
Yes, I completely agree. I also think another thing that can be improved is the experience of booking free night awards. Now, don't get me wrong, Hilton free night awards are absolutely amazing. In fact, currently staying at a property using a Hilton free night award, and they're so crazy because you can book any standard room reward, um, even the really crazy expensive ones. However, you do have to call in to book that, which I find kind of a hassle. So if there's some way to be able to book that online, that would be awesome. Also, another ask I would have is to be able to book a free night for someone else. I think right now the way the system works is you can only book a free night for your name. Because they do expire. It's kind of a bit more of a hassle to plan around. So if you can like book a free night for your family member using the certificate, I really don't think it would harm the program that significantly or anything. And a lot of properties will already let you book for someone else if you call them up in advance and tell them that someone else will be staying. So they're already sort of allowing that at some properties. Might as well make it consistent and a clear process to do that through Hilton, like centrally.
I agree. Actually, now that you mention it, that should be done for IHG and Marriott as well,
Yes.
because they currently don't let you do it, at least officially. And it's like this whole thing of like, if you want to do it, you have to add them as a second guest. And it's like, well, okay, in the US it probably works, but internationally it's a total no go. IHG says you can do it, but it's all like in their FAQs or something. It's not like actually in the terms. It's a whole thing. They should just make it clear. Totally agree with you. I think another thing that I am a little annoyed with Hilton properties is, as a diamond, you're supposed to get executive lounge access, right? They club lounge access. And the problem is, hotels will just have an executive lounge, and they just won't call it an executive lounge. And they just won't give you access because it's not technically an executive lounge. So, like one property I stayed at, which I will name as the Conrad Abu Dhabi, which has what is essentially an executive lounge. They just don't call it that, and therefore you don't get access. Now, on one level, I get it, because that hotel I saw had a ridiculous number of diamonds. So it would pretty much ruin the entire proposition of even offering a paid lounge if you let all the diamonds in. But at the same time, it's like, okay, Hilton, like, if you have too many diamonds to offer this benefit, then you shouldn't be offering it in the first place. You shouldn't, offer it and then let hotels just skirt around the entire rule. So that's something I think that could be improved as well.
I think another thing I want to add is I've been not that impressed with how Hilton delivers its breakfast benefit. During the pandemic, they changed the breakfast benefit for properties within the US to like a daily food and beverage credit, usually around $50 for two people at the higher end markets, which is really sad and pathetic because most of these properties you can't really get a serious breakfast for $50 because they're overpriced anyway. And B, it lags behind all of the other programs, Marriott, IHG, and Hilton, which give top tier elites a proper breakfast. And C, they sort of framed this initially as, oh, we're changing it to food and beverage credit, give you more flexibility. You don't only have to use it for breakfast. You can use it for any meal. And I find that a very disingenuous argument. It's obviously much cheaper for them to cap you at such a low dollar amount than to just give full free breakfast. So I'm not super happy with that, but I kind of understand that's probably going to be the way it is in the US. And I don't foresee them changing that, especially with how easy it is to get gold or diamond status. And by the way, you do get this benefit even if you're gold, not the top tier status. Um, and abroad, they still have they still have continental breakfast. So at least it's not a credit, but it's not a full breakfast. It's not as good. I think it would not cost them that much more to offer full breakfast instead of continental, at least to diamonds. Honestly, I would be okay if they just got rid of this food and beverage or like free breakfast benefit entirely from gold members and only gave it to diamond members, assuming that they improve it, like either by increasing the food and beverage credit in the US or by including full breakfast for diamonds abroad. Because like literally it's already so easy to get diamond status from like the Aspire card, and like to get gold status is even easier. You only need the mid-tier Hilton card, the Hilton business card, or like one of the Amex Platinum cards. So like I don't know, I really don't think we need to be giving this to gold members. I think if they only gave it to diamond members but made it better, it would be more beneficial. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I totally agree there, and it's interesting because most hotels, at least luxury hotels internationally, already give full breakfast to Gold and Diamond, but there's a few that don't, such as when I was at like Waldorf Cabo, they don't give. I've stayed there 4 times. They don't give Gold or Diamond complimentary full breakfast, and they like try to upcharge you in the buffet, and then they also like raise the price of it. Look, I love that hotel, but it comes off as cheap. Okay, trying to upcharge me for like a buffet breakfast over continental. Like the continental's good, right? It's a legit breakfast, but it's like I don't know. That's like one of most of the nice hotels I've stayed at like internationally that are Hilton affiliated just give you full breakfast anyway. So it's just like could they just put this in the terms already? It'd be really nice, and totally agree. They just remove it from gold. I don't know why they even have it for gold. It's like diamond's already easy enough to get. You don't need to have it in gold as well. Let's move on to IHG. So IHG had a revamp, and it was on paper very good. They added, the breakfast benefit for Diamond. They added a lot more interesting milestone rewards, such as club lounge access, and they tried to like clarify the upgrades a bit more. But the problem is, I feel like, especially, is the upgrades at IHG has just been wildly inconsistent, and I don't feel like they are doing it that to the degree they should. I think they should, similar to Hilton, clarify the language and make it so that look, diamonds get upgraded to like a base level suite, right? Just make it clear in the language. Don't make it like super opaque like it is, and you have to like argue with the property. No, I should get this or that.
I agree. Yeah, because it just says upgrade subject to availability, and that's the same terms for both platinum and diamond. I would like to see some like difference between platinum and diamond, like explicitly in the terms. Because some properties will upgrade you to suites, some won't, and it's a whole mess. The other thing I think they really, really need to fix is their confirmable suite upgrades and food and beverage milestone credits. Now, these were new milestone rewards that were introduced last year or the year before in their IHG One Rewards revamp, and I think these were awesome improvements. Confirmable suite upgrades were great because they apply to your entire stay. Now, it's not as good as Hyatt because it only works 14 days in advance, and you have to call in. But it's a great addition. Now, the problem is there's so many reports of people having trouble applying these because the agents aren't knowledgeable, because the suite shows up as available online, but they refuse to honor the certificate, or the property wants to refuse it, and the central IHG agent does not have the authority to overwrite them. Or I've even seen horror stories of people applying suite upgrades, and it seems to work, and then they go to the property and then they realize they've been downgraded and never got applied properly in the first place. So just making sure it actually works properly would be a huge plus, because I think Hyatt has been doing very well. And like being very clear, like if that standard suite is available online, there should not be any excuse the property is able to conjure up to deny your use of this confirmable suite upgrade. It's not even just a complimentary suite upgrade based on availability. It's like a confirmable thing, and they do expire. So if you're not able to use them, it's very frustrating. There are also significant issues with food and beverage credits that they would give you as like selection in the milestone rewards, to the point that they had to extend the initial expiration dates several times before they got it to work. So these are kind of logistical issues that need to be sorted out. And until they do that, I think it's hardly worth, explicitly trying to grind for these ISG milestones that you're just uncertain whether will give you any value, because they just might be broken, basically. And it's very frustrating if they don't fix this. Sean, anything else about this topic?
No, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think like they have IT issues that need to be resolved. Yeah, it's just kind of frustrating when they try to add these benefits and then just make them hard to redeem. And it's like, why am I incentive? What's my incentive to interact with the loyalty program as opposed to something like Hyatt, where they just keep seeming to improve their IT back to back to back, where like, oh, now I can book my suite upgrades online and I can use them for times when standard rooms aren't even open. And it's, that's something I really like about Hyatt. So I think IHG really needs to improve that as well.
Yeah, I think another source of frustration is, I don't know if this is IT based, I suspect it's not, is the inconsistency of their award inventory. So at Hyatt, for example, it's very clear if a standard room is available to book for cash, it will be available to book for points. And the property does not have discretion to block some of their inventory from points usage. Whereas IHG has like separate buckets internally, where like sometimes you'll see this very basic standard non-upgraded room available to book for cash, but you can't book an award on it because the separate bucket has run out of space. That's very frustrating and really limits the value of IHG points. Even more frustrating is sometimes they have yet a separate bucket for when you want to redeem IHG free night certificates, where a room might be available for points, but you can't apply a certificate to it, even though it's supposed to have the same value. And that's an issue. Sometimes I'm able to get around with it.
They also have it the other way as well, where sometimes there'll be I think I used this actually at the Regent Hong Kong, because they had no points availability, but the cert was open, and it's a whole frustrating system.
Honestly. But if you run into this issue, one thing I've tried that sometimes works is booking on the mobile app can sometimes show availability on one of these buckets that's not available on the website for some reason. So they need to fix, whether it's an IT issue or a purposeful blocking of certain inventory, they need to fix that, because it really harms the value of their points if like I can't even use it for base room that's available. I don't think any other chain does this, where they have separate inventory for awards and standard rooms with cash. So they need to fix that. Another thing I would like to see, we already talked about this for Marriott, similar, like waive resort fees on award nights. Come on, very basic. You should not, like Sean, have to spend more money on parking and resort fees to use a cert that you already have than to just acquire another cert from Hyatt, for example, that costs less. That's ridiculous. And then finally, one thing I would like to see is clarifying how diamond breakfast gratuity is handled by the terms. This is so inconsistent. Hyatt, for example, is very clear for Globalist breakfast includes tip. So the hotel will cover the tip to your waiter or waitress. But for IHG, the terms are silent about tips. Sometimes the hotel will just cover it. Sometimes you are expected to tip on top of it and actually pay out of your pocket, which makes it no longer a free breakfast. And sometimes they will force you to tip, like there will be automatic 15 or 18% gratuity that will not come off at checkout because it's not included as part of the diamond breakfast. Now, to be very clear, I'm not saying that if you have high tier status, you should be able to get away with not tipping the waiter and waitress, and the person who serves it is just screwed. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the property needs to cover the cost of the gratuity toward the server. That's what Hyatt does. It's not like Hyatt servers are just screwed out of their money if a globalist eats there. No, they do get paid from the hotel. And ISG could easily do the same by clarifying their terms.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Those are all very excellent points.
Okay, is there anything else you want to cover? I think this is a longer rant session than I anticipated.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up now.
Okay, so thank you all for listening to us whine about our hotel loyalty program wishes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And if you want to apply for any credit card, hotel or non-hotel, please consider using one of the links down in the description below. It greatly helps support this channel. And Sean, please plug our Discord.
So if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts entirely for free, check out the Travel Lane Discord group at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.